Welcome to the Macros, Buttons, and Pivot Tables tutorial with an emphasis on macro recording and button development to automate your spreadsheet processes. And the pivot table section of this will be just on how to refresh a pivot table using macros and buttons. Part 1 will be to develop the buttons that we will assign the macros to. And part 2 will be to create the macros and assign those macros to the buttons. All right, one is on developing buttons. So we're going to create our first button, and then the steps to create all the additional buttons will be all the same. First thing I would do is go to the Insert tab. And from the Insert tab, you're going to want to go to Shapes. And within Shapes, if you've used it, you may have recently used Shapes up top. Otherwise, it may just have it broken out. So what we're going to go to is rectangles. And I like to take the rectangles with kind of rounded corners. So that's the one I'm going to use. It's personal preference. So you're going to see this little crosshairs right here. When you click on your left mouse button, it's going to make it bigger. What you want to do here is you want to draw the size of your shape. And then you're going to let go, and it's going to put your shape out here. The next thing you're going to want to do is go to Shape Effects. And they have a lot of different ones, a lot of different presets here and different types. I go to Bevel, and I like kind of the raised bevel, so that's one I'm going to choose. And you click off it, you'll see that it looks like it's kind of raised with a little, maybe a little shadow or something beside it. Then what we're going to do is we're going to write the name Clear Data on this shape, which will become our button. So we're going to right click, go to Edit Text, and we're going to, in all caps, we're going to put Clear Data. Then we're going to click outside. So we have Clear Data written in there, but we're going to want to now be able to center that. So we're going to activate the button again, go up here to Center, and then this center right here. And then we're going to make the words bigger, so we're just going to make it a 28 font. And that is the steps for creating a button within Excel to use as a macro. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this button and we're going to copy and paste it under each of the additional steps. And then we're going to go back to those. We're going to double click on them, and we're going to write in copy data because that's the word in red for number 2. And we're going to double click in this one and highlight all that and go format. And we'll double click in this one, highlight that, and put census, regions, and divisions. Now this one's going to be pretty long. It's going to put on 2 rows, so you can either leave it that way or you can just drag it out to make it bigger to fit it on 1 row. And then on the last one, do the same thing. Highlight, refresh, pivot table. And now we've created all the buttons we're going to need to assign our macros to. So that is it for part 1. Part 2 of the tutorial is to create our macros and assign those macros to the buttons that we created in the first part. We have 5 buttons: Clear Data, Copy Data, Format Data, Census, Regions and Divisions, and Refresh Pivot Table. So we're going to create macros to assign to each one of those buttons. All right. In order to do that, the first thing you have to do is make sure you have Developer up here on your tab. If you do not have this developer on the ribbon up there, up top, then what you need to do is click on File, go to Options, go to Customize Ribbon here in the center, and where this drop down is over here where it says Main Tabs on my screen, you may not have that. Yours could say All Tabs or Tool Tabs. Just go to Main Tabs. In the center, you'll find Developer. Just make sure the check mark right beside Developer and click OK. If you have done that, And then what will happen is developer will be up here, and you'll be able to go over here to the left and go to record macro. So we're going to click on record macro, and this box will come up. Our first macro we're going to create is clear data. So we're going to write in here clear data. Now I left the space between the two words because I want to show you the error that's going to come up by doing that. So if you click OK, this box is going to come up because it says that you must have an underscore. It does not like, macros do not like having any space in between words, so we just got to add our underscore. Take out the space, and then we're going to add a description. The goal of this macro is to clear data from the format and combine data tab. And we're going to click OK. What we see is there's information in there. What we want to do is go over here to that page, go open this top, and just highlight everything by clicking on that corner cell and click delete. Go back here to button develop and apply macros, go to developer, click stop recording. Now, we need to test the macro to make sure it works, so we're going to go to original data. We're going to highlight it all and copy it. We're going to put it back on the format. We're going to paste it right here. Back to buttons, develop and apply macros, developer, and now we're going to go where it shows macros, the word. Click on it. You'll see clear data. This is the macro we created. We're going to click run. If this works correctly, then on that other tab, nothing will be there. All gone. We know it worked. So we're going to go up here to clear data. Right click on the button. Go down to where it says assign macro. Highlight clear data. Click OK. Then we'll go back to our original download. Copy this again. And go to format. Paste it again. And go back to our button. And we're just going to click on our button, because if it works, it'll be empty again. It did. So, our button worked. We create our macro. We know it works. The steps we just went through are the exact steps you'll go through every single one of the remaining buttons to assign a macro. The only difference is we'll have different things that need to be done while creating the macro. Now we're going to create our copy data macro. So we're going to go up to developer, record macro, copy underscore data, description. The goal of this macro is to copy and paste our data. And we'll click OK. And we're going to go over here to original census. We're going to highlight it. We're going to go copy. We're going to go to format data, cell A1, paste, button develop, developer, stop recording, and we're going to test our macro. So we have the data here. We'll use our clear data button. It's gone. And now we're going to go to the macros again, find copy data, click run. If it worked, there should be data here. There is, so we know it worked. So now we're going to go to copy data, assign macro again, copy data, OK, clear data button, and now we're going to test our copy data button. Is there data there? Yes, there is, so we know it works. All right, so the next one we're going to create is our format macro. So what we want to do is go over here to format and combine data. And what we're going to want to get rid of is anything that says total for all sectors under the next description. Under state, we're going to get rid of anything that says Puerto Rico, because even though Puerto Rico is part of the US, it's not a state, it's a province. So we're just going to get rid of it. So all we want is state data. And then we're going to go down here to at the very bottom. You'll see all this junk stuff that the census adds to all their data, and we're going to get rid of all that. All right. So we're going to go over here to buttons, develop, and apply macros. We're going to go up here to developer, and we're going to go to record macro, and we're going to put in format. And in our description, we're going to put the goal of this macro is to format our data. And we'll click OK. And then we're going to go to format and combine data. Scroll to the top. We're going to add filters to make this a little easy. Filter, hit our little drop down arrow, A to Z, so everything's in order. And then in the search bar, we're going to click right in total. Click OK. So now that we did everything A to Z, everything is right beside each other. We're going to highlight it all and just click delete. Then we're going to activate all the data again. And then we're going to go up here and go A to Z again, so everything's in order. Now we're going to go over here to state. Put everything in order from A to Z, and then we're going to type in Puerto. So now we have Puerto Rico there. Click OK. Highlight it all. Control Shift down. Click delete. Go down, and since we already have all of this data here that we can see, we're going to go ahead and highlight it. Click delete. Go back up to our arrow. Activate all of our data. Go again. Put it in numerical order. Go back to our buttons, develop and apply macros. Go to our developer and click stop recording. Alright, so now we need to test it. So we're going to go to clear data, copy data. Now we have our junk data. We're going to go back to macros, go to format, and click run. If everything works right, we should be able to see that all that stuff is gone. So we're going to NAICS, hit our drop down arrow, write in total. There is no matches, so that's a good sign. One state, type in Puerto. No matches, that's a good sign. And we'll go control down, and then we'll scroll, and we see all that extra stuff is gone, so we know that our macro worked. So we're going to right click on our format button. We're going to assign the macro. We're going to click on format, and we'll do OK. Now we need to test the button, so it's clear data, copy data, and now format. And we'll just look at total, see if it's gone. If it is, everything else should be good because we know the macro worked, and it did. So now we know that our third macro and our third button works. The next macro we're going to create is census regions and divisions. So what we're going to do is go to the census regions divisions tab. Up top here is column headers for region and division. We're going to copy and paste those over here into these last two columns. And then we're going to attach the correct region and division to the correct record that's already in our formatted data. And we're going to use XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP to do that. XLOOKUP because anybody who has newer versions can use XLOOKUP, which is a very powerful function. And for those who don't have the newer versions of Excel, we'll use VLOOKUP so you can see the same way to get the same answer. Alright, so let's do that. So we're going to go up here to Developer, Record Macro, and we're going to call this Region, Division, Description. The goal of this macro is to add region and division to our data set. Click OK. Census regions, again, copy and paste. So now we pasted it, and we're going to do our first one is XLOOKUP, parentheses, Alabama, comma, Alaska, shift control down, lock it down with F4, comma, go back to our region, shift control down, 4, lock it down, and again, comma, comma for exact match, close it out, and we're good. Take it down, division, we're going to do it with the VLOOKUP now, equals VLOOKUP, parentheses, Alabama, comma, census regions, and we're going to go all the way to the top, Alaska, shift, over, down, shift, and we're going to push a 4, comma, and with VLOOKUPs we got to tell what column the answer is located in, so we know it's column 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and comma, and because it doesn't automatically give us exact match, we have to put the word false. Close out our parentheses, and now we have East, South, Central, so we know it worked. Double click, down, and then we're just going to lock these in, make them hard instead of formulas, copy, paste special, values, okay. And now we'll go back to our buttons, develop, click on developer, and stop recording. Alright, we need to test to see if this worked. So clear data, copy data, format data, and now we need to go up here to macros, region division. If everything works, we'll find those two with all the data connected to it. So we'll click run, format, it does work, sweet. So go back over here to button develop, clear, copy, format, nothing is there, region division. We're going to assign the macro to our button, assign, region division, click OK, click outside, click on our button, and it's all there, so we know it worked. Alright, so the last macro we have to create is the one that will refresh our pivot table. Alright, so over here, we've already got our pivot table made up, and we need to make sure that every time we push that button, all of our information in here gets updated. All this information will come off of the Format and Combine Data tab. So, being that this information is already in our pivot table, we're going to have to change a record. So, on our refresh pivot table, we have our divisions right here. There's East, South, Central. It's $302,672,558 for annual payroll. So we're going to go over here to our Format and Combine Data. We're just going to find our first record, which is East, South, Central. And we're going to go through and take that first record, and we're going to add a lot of zeros to the end of it. So I just want to be able to make sure we can see the astronomical difference, and we can tell that the pivot table did actually refresh. So we're going to go back over here to button develop and apply macros, click on developer, record our macro. We're going to name it refresh underscore pivot underscore table, and our description will be the goal of this macro is to refresh our pivot table on command. Click OK. We're recording now, so we're going to go over to refresh pivot table, click inside the pivot table, go up to pivot table analyze, go to change data source, click change data source, put A1, control shift, arrow over, arrow down, so we have all the data again, click OK. Then within this box, we're going to go back up to pivot table analyze, we're going to go to refresh, and we're going to do refresh all. Just in case you have additional pivot tables within your data set, if you click refresh all, it'll refresh all your pivot tables at the same time. So we'll click refresh all, and we'll see where we have this astronomical number there. And we're going to go over here to buttons, develop, and apply macros, developer, stop recording. Alright, so we're going to clear our data, copy our data, format our data, census region our data, and now that we've done that, that big number that we saw just a second ago come in will no longer be there if our macro works. So let's go up to our macro, and we're going to go to refresh pivot table, and we're going to click run. And we're going to go over here to refresh pivot table, and we'll see that that number is back to its original number of $302,672,558. But now we're going to have to test our button again. So let's go back to the format and combine data, go back to that first record again, and we're going to put in a whole bunch of zeros again just for an astronomical number to make sure that our button works. Go back to our button. We're going to assign that macro to it. Fresh pivot table. Click OK. And now we're going to press on our button, and we should have an astronomical number sitting out here. And voila, we do. So we know that it worked. So we have gone through creating buttons. We have gone through recording of macros. We have gone through assigning a macro to a button. And I have showed you how to refresh a pivot table with a button. So that completes the tutorial.